All right, guys, let's hop in. New Diablo season. Let's check it out.
It feels great.
Yeah, and for everyone curious in chat, Adam is not going anywhere. As you all know, there's a ton going on in Diablo. Yeah, Adam Fletcher isn't going
This
anywhere.
one, yes.
Adam Jackson,
I deal with this
Adam
one.
Fletcher. There's a ton going on in Diablo right now. We've had a ton of live streams. There's been so much going on, so it's just a lot easier to share the load amongst all the, the hosting live streams.
We just finished the Spiritborn live stream, so it's been a little crazy, and Marcus is here to help out. So you guys may see Marcus more here hosting some live streams in the future. But yeah, I'm not.
I don't know if we can turn a closed
Yeah,
caption.
Adam is staying
today.
Yeah,
Take over
exactly.
stuff,
Today I get to pretend I'm Colin.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty excited about that. Some
But
big,
yeah,
big
we're gonna
shoes to
see
fill
new
there.
uniques,
Yeah.
guys, and
That
obviously
is,
the new season
absolutely true.
announcement.
In
But
terms of everything that's been
pretty much
going
know
on
what's in
Diablo,
this season.
we just had our Season of the Infernal Hordes PTR, and we've got a lot of learnings.
Yeah, but we also do have one additional person. But
Of course we do. Mr. Dan Tangway from Albany, New York. Dan, welcome to the stream.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
See, Dan's in like the Cathedral of Light. We're in like the Burning Hell. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's perfect.
It's hot over here.
Exactly.
It tracks, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Dan. And the Season 5 PTR.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of learnings. This was our second PTR for Diablo 4, so we have a ton of feedback to get into, but we also have some notes from the community on the PTR overall and some learnings. So, Adam, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, most definitely. This is now our second PTR that we had. We had one for Season 4 and, of course, one now for Season 5. And, we've learned a lot from these PTRs. PTRs are incredibly important. They're huge. They're really beneficial for the whole entire team here. And one thing we heard a lot of feedback, at least from the Season 5 PTR, is obviously as you're playing through a PTR, it's a non-final thing that you're playing. It's still very early on. There are going to be more bugs, more issues just present in the PTR because we are getting something out there a little bit earlier just so we can get feedback in on it. But one thing that I think we most definitely heard from the community is, hey, the tools within PTR at times haven't been the best or the most efficient for players that need to actually test the content that we actually do have. And so one thing that we did want to at least address and highlight and acknowledge is that we do plan on making the PTR experiences better in the future. We do plan on equipping more tools for players out there, so they're not having to sit there and grind out, maybe like all the new legendaries.
Getting all the aspects was not fun.
Especially in like Season 5, for example, we gave a character copy feature in this one, and then of course we had the boost feature which came back from Season 4. And when you boosted your character, a new character, you would end up getting some of the new legendaries or uniques within Season 5. What happened though is that it wasn't all of them, and then we had players within Season 5 having to actually go out and spend their time that they probably could be testing other things, like trying to find those items. And obviously that's like not the most efficient thing to do. So we do want to, we hear everyone, we acknowledge it, we do want to make the PTR experience better. So I will say that like in future PTRs, and you'll see this gradually over the next couple PTRs, it won't be all of a sudden like things will be completely different. But I do expect like, and players should expect like that we will have better tools for them to properly test as we gradually go through PTRs in the future. And we appreciate everyone like letting us know. Like we most definitely hear you guys, and we most definitely want to make that experience better from that. But PTRs have been great. Huge thanks to everyone for jumping in and checking it out for sure. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that feedback is so important. So increasing how great these PTRs are is really, really important. And I know for the Season 5 PTR, one of the huge features that we had in there was the Infernal Hordes itself. So for everyone who didn't get a chance to jump into the PTR, Mr. Dan Tangway, can you kind of walk us through what the Infernal Hordes is and what players can expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you all a quick recap. So the Infernal Hordes is a wave-based activity with push your luck choices in between each of those waves. So imagine waves of monsters coming in, lots and lots of monsters in fact, and you also have some events, mini events that you can also participate in. Now in between those waves you're going to be making what's called the Infernal offer, and you're going to pick a boon or a bane, and that's going to change your gameplay for the rest of the run. So it allows you to customize what your Infernal run is going to be like. And so we probably see right here, yep.
You get to basically choose what difficulty that you want. And open Photoshop so I can grab some screenshots.
And that will then change
when the time comes. Whoops, sorry.
Of course, the rest of the run. Now, when you complete the required number of waves, then you're able to go confront the Fell Council, who you can see here. And the Fell Council, as you saw from the video that just came on right before this live stream, are former servants, well, actually current servants of Mephisto, that you defeated in Diablo 2 and have now returned, and you must fight them once more. And once you beat them, you're going to be able to spawn what's called the Spoils of Hell. And these are chests that contain a lot of great goodies. And so with that Burning Aether you've been collecting all through the course of the mode, you're able to choose what kind of spoils you want. You've got spoils of legendaries and uniques, and there's some absolutely great new uniques and legendaries in Season 5, and you can probably farm about half of them, over half of them from the Infernal Hordes. You're also able to spawn spoils of materials and buy into that, and that will get you gem shards, that will get you Angel's Breath, and of course that'll get you masterworking materials, which you absolutely need to complete your items journey. You can also cash out and get a bunch of gold, which, you know, for those folks who are re-rolling their items in order to masterwork them or to enchant their items, is going to be hugely beneficial. And then finally, there's a special bonus chest at higher tiers where you can get a guaranteed roll on a greater affix item. And so since that's one of the main chases in the, you know, the final steps of the end game, you know, we wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for players to really.
So that's like the only thing as far as I'm aware that like would be like lucrative enough to
final
get.
Thoughts on the Infernal Hordes.
Yes, sir.
Remember that it unlocks at World Tier 3.
I don't know why it unlocks World Tier 3 to be honest, but
in order to unlock it, and there's 8 levels of difficulty for it. And so yeah, that's
because you're better off instead of pushing that, just push to the end game.
Thanks for walking us through, Dan. Super excited to jump in and try to grab some of those uniques. Now I know, considering the Infernal Hordes was such a big part of PTR, we did have a lot of community feedback with regards to, you know, getting into the mode, and, you know, some of the pacing. So can you walk us through some of those learnings we had based off the PTR feedback?
Oh, absolutely. So there was a lot of feedback.
But new season will be in less than a week.
So that we weren't able to address
real soon.
But we did distill down some big trends and feedback that we were able to tackle. And so the first off is that we wanted to improve access to the Infernal Hordes. So yeah, it was just too hard to get into the mode regularly to test it. And folks who wanted to get into it very quickly couldn't get into it either. So we've pretty much overhauled access to the Infernal Hordes at this point. Compasses still exist, but the drop rates on those have been boosted quite a bit. We want you to earn around 4 or 5 compasses an hour so that you can do about 4 or 5 hour runs per hour. So, you know, you've got, you know, 50% chance to get them from item chests and Helltides, unless it's one of those item chests that costs, you know, 250 cinders, in which case that's 100% chance. I mean, you put in the time, we'll just give it to you. And then, you know, Nightmare Dungeon and Whispers, there's about a 75% chance to get one from a dungeon complete there. You know, compass tiers at really high levels, we wanted to make sure drop naturally from high tiered activities like Nightmare Dungeons and the Pit. And we've also given you a path to just crafting these outright with the Occultists with Sigil Power and Forgotten Souls. And then finally, you know, it was a bug that the first compass that dropped from the Eternal Quest, it was actually a World Tier 3. And if you were playing World Tier 4, yeah, you had to switch back to actually get in the Infernal Hordes, and that didn't feel great. So we updated that as well. Moving along, the next big thing that we focused on was combat. The pacing of combat wasn't hitting our goals. And, you know, we had done a lot of internal testing on it. And, you know, folks who weren't as endgame focused gave us a lot of feedback where...
No, it's good for melee characters, so you don't have to walk over.
Intense. Could we dial it back a little bit? So we did, but then we put it out on PTR and clearly y'all said, hey, no, we want more. So we're giving you more. The first thing that we did though is we fixed some bugs that actually had a really big impact on the experience. There was a boss health bug. Man, that is hard to say. Boss health bug that caused all the bosses to be super tanky. And at tier 8, there were some folks who were spending almost an hour's worth of time in the Infernal's Horde, and that's not what we wanted. So we fixed those bugs and retuned everything, so it's a much tighter experience at this point. Similarly, there was a bug where difficulty wasn't scaling appropriate in multiplayer, so we fixed that. And then some tuning things. So the pace of mini events are pretty much rapid fire at high tiers now, and so you're going to be spinning a lot of plates in this mode. The monster spawn rates have also been increased to, really capture that feeling of being overwhelmed. And then finally, we reduced the wave timer down to 60 seconds.
All these are like good changes,
which,
though.
Just creates a much punchier experience for players, and of course, retuned everything. And then on top of that, we said, you know what? Let's just make it easier for players to pick up Burning Aether to increase that pace. So the pets now pick up the Burning Aether as well. And that's not all. Now, of course, we're all playing this for the rewards, right? And so it was really important for us to improve rewards across the board. You spend time with the mode, you want to be rewarded appropriately, and we weren't hitting that mark in the PTR. So we raised the minimum amount of Burning Aether earned from any single run. First off, every single source of Aether got boosted by 1 Aether. And then we added Aether drops to the Fell Council so that you're also getting, a lot of bang for your buck just by defeating the boss as well. And that actually scales per tier as well.
So the greater one, which is the only thing that really matters, is 60.
So,
so it's achievable.
Equipment, that
before you couldn't get it.
In it used to cost $250, now it only costs $60. Similarly, we retuned the spoils of equipment and the spoils of materials, so now they only cost 20 Aether a piece. And then finally, we retuned all the rewards that were inside, the chests as well. So, at your bare minimum level, when you first start playing the Infernal Hordes and you're not sure exactly how it works, we still want you to feel rewarded just for the time that you invested. And so the rewards at that bare minimum feel pretty good now. But, if you are spending a lot of time with it, and you know how to optimize this mode, we wanted to make sure that, the rewards reflected that too, so that higher, ceiling of rewards has been raised as well. So you're playing at tier 8, you are going to get significantly more rewards than you would at tier 1.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. That's a lot of stuff to change.
I just want to call out, Dan, your shirt is amazing.
I was going to interrupt, but I didn't want to while he was talking.
Now I just want that shirt, and I'm very jealous that I don't actually own that shirt. So I will message you after the stream to let me know where I can get this shirt.
Yeah, I think someone on the team made it. So I was like, I needed a new shirt for the live stream. So
that is her art. 100%. Yes.
Now we know.
Okay, now I know.
And it is totally awesome. I had to wear it. So.
It is, Aaron. I totally know.
Aaron, we will be touching base after the stream.
Yes.
Dan, that's a ton of changes. It sounds like we're really cranking up the intensity for the Infernal Hordes. Really, really cool to see. Super excited to jump into it. So I know for the Infernal Hordes, that's one part of the season that's coming, but there was a lot that players didn't get to experience in the PTR that will be coming with the season. So can you kind of share what's going to be new for players coming into Season 5?
Yeah, absolutely. So the PTR was really focused on features that were on both the Eternal realm and the Seasonal realm. And we have a number of seasonal exclusive features that y'all haven't had a chance to play with yet. So we're going to tell you about them.
That's what I'm talking about, newer stuff. What about power?
We've got the seasonal progression. So you're going to see what we call the reputation system and some footage here in just a second. And the reputation system is something that we had.
Oh, it looks like the same thing as previous
season 4
season.
and actually earlier in some events, and we've
mouse over the last one
because it serves as a great backbone for the season. And we've evolved it in some significant ways. So first off, how you earn reputation is a bit different now. It was really important for us in season 5
champions,
to
Hellborn's
give
bosses.
you more of a give you more choice in how you wanted to earn your reputation. So previously in Season 4, you earn reputation through just playing Helltides, as you should, because we made a
So
lot
you
of
play
improvements to
anything for the new
Helltides in
thing.
Season 4, but here we wanted to broaden it out a bit
Less than a
more.
week
So you
is when it's
earn
dropping.
reputation in Season 5 by just defeating powerful servants of Hell, elites, Hellborn, champions, bosses, so on and so forth, right? And
That's
so
good. So you
that
do
gives
whatever
you a lot
activity.
more choice to say, hey, I can earn reputation in Helltides, or I want to earn it in the
Helltide's
Infernal Hordes.
Whispers.
Or honestly, I want to take a break and do a Stronghold. You'll get reputation there too.
The strongholds are kind of pointless to do, let's be honest.
Another
Unless you need
small
to
tweak
unlock
that we
something like
made
a
that's pretty
dungeon.
important is that when you pick up reputation, you actually get a small boost in XP as well. So as you're continually filling out your reputation track, you're starting to level up just a little more quickly than you did before. Now, another thing that you might have seen are these big green tiles in the reputation system, and those are seasonal quests. So we made it very clear that hitting certain tiers of your reputation system now unlock the seasonal quests, and it actually starts to weave the narrative through the progression a bit more, which we really like the feel
So you
of,
have
and
to
we hope to
get
build
enough
on
kills
in
to
the
progress
future.
in the story. I wish you
And
could
then
just do the whole
finally,
story, then you can
again,
do
it's
more.
all about the rewards, right? So there's lots of great returning rewards in the reputation system. You're going to be able to earn uniques, specifically class-based uniques. They're going to help you figure out what you want your build to be early on in the season. You're also going to be able to get other powerful equipment, big drops of crafting materials, and of course, at the very end of the reputation track will be a resplendent spark that you can use to ultimately craft a mythic unique. Next up, we've got the seasonal quest line. I was teasing it up a little bit with the reputation system there. So the Season of the Infernal Hordes has a rather unique narrative flow.
How does he have his...
Because
oh,
we
no, that's not
have
his ultimate.
an eternal quest line.
I say, how does he have
that
an ultimate?
Introduces,
it's dismount. It's the same.
a big new feature that takes you back to hell, right? And so we wanted to make sure that was available to everybody, not just seasonal players. And that also starts at World Tier 3. Now, for those of you who played the PTR have already seen it. That's the one that features Lokrin helping you to get back to hell and confront the Infernal Hordes. But we've developed an additional secondary, well, not really secondary, an additional seasonal quest line named of Lambs and Wolves, which we're kind of teasing right here. And new NPC named Estelle is guiding you to become more powerful before you join Lokrin to journey back to hell. Now, this one's going to be a little closer in tone to the Iron Wolves quest in Season 4, but it's going to be a bit more expansive than that. And like I said, it weaves in and out of the seasonal progression. So how do they relate to one another? Well, the seasonal quest line is exclusive to Season 5. And so you are able to get a really more complete picture of the story by playing both the seasonal quest line and the eternal quest line. You can kind of think of the seasonal quest line as almost like a prequel to you unlocking the Infernal Hordes.
But it's weird because you can play in Eternal and do the Infernal Hordes.
Players don't get left out. This is an Eternal mode that we're introducing after all with the Infernal
Hordes.
Hordes.
Okay, so it's going to be like going standard, so to speak.
The Eternal quest line here, which is named Eyes of the Enemy, is going to be available for all players and won't go away after the season ends. So it's going to be there forever. So if you decide sometime down the road that you want to check out,
so it's just the seasonal rewards of one spark. But if you already have a bunch of like uber uniques,
right? And so yeah, that's where we
you could just salvage it and you'd get the same amount, and it's like a lot faster.
And then the final thing I want to introduce are the Hellbreach dungeons, which we've gotten a few teases of before, but we can go into more detail here. So these are all new micro dungeons.
These are new dungeons.
Hell has started taking root in Sanctuary. Now, since the Infernal Hordes is an endgame activity, World Tier 3+, we wanted to make sure we had some content that targeted our World Tier 1 and 2 players. And so you go into these, it's going to be a great source of reputation. It's going to be a great place to get
so you have the challenge items, kind of, too.
And it's a pretty cool place to just kind of experience what the gameplay is going to be like down the road. Now, originally we had kind of patterned these off the Donheim tunnels, if y'all remember those. But, with the introduction of Helltide in Season 4, we had to change it up a little bit, because I don't think that alone would have sufficed. And so what we did is we pulled in a lot of elements from the Infernal Hordes, and we're using this as an opportunity to introduce those elements. So you see right here, we've got a simple
50% damage?
that shows, that
pretty
basically
deadly.
says, okay, do I want my boss to be a little simpler or a little more difficult? And you get to choose. Hopefully the person playing chose the more difficult one. I didn't see, but you're going to be rewarded a lot more for taking that risk of making the boss more difficult.
It was like
And
2
you're
to
gonna be
7 was the
burning
difference in
Aether, and
numbers.
at the end, there are going to be some spoils that you can spend on. And like I said, you'll get some really powerful gear that should help you on your journey toward encountering the Infernal Hordes. So if you want more details on these, I recommend that you check out our blog that came out 2 days ago. And yeah, thank you.
Dan, that's awesome. I gotta say, chat got pretty excited when you mentioned domain tunnels. They kind of blew up there. So definitely a fan favorite.
Everyone remembers the dopamine tunnels. Yeah.
Right.
And it's great that there's now like opportunities for players within like World Tier 1 and 2 to actually be able to have other options of leveling up. And with these new help reaches, it's
a good way to
for people
tease in the new content.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Experience. Yeah.
Then you get into those Infernal Hordes in World Tier 3 and away you go.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. As Dan had mentioned, we did publish the Season of the Infernal Hordes blog a little bit earlier this week. We are going to have patch notes that will publish following the stream. So for any details we reveal,
I want to see. I'm mostly interested in new uniques. Because this stuff, so far, most of the stuff we've seen before, except for the new like little dungeon area thing, where you get to choose the difficulty.
So we just touched on a ton of stuff that's coming in Season of the Infernal Hordes itself, but based off the PTR, we also have a ton of changes coming across Sanctuary.
Yes.
And to walk us through from the other end of the stream, Mr. Adam Fletcher.
I get to pretend like I'm the person on the panel. I'm gonna.
You designed and did all of this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
this was
put in all the
me.
changes.
No, we have a fantastic design team here, and I am gonna bring in my inner Colin Finer to talk about some stuff. But yes, as Marcus mentioned, there's a lot of changes. A lot of the stuff that we actually did talk about in the blog, and some of the stuff that people heard from PTR. But there have been changes even since PTR, and we have a few new things in here that will also squeak in here as we're talking about it. But one big topic I know that everyone brought up after PTR, and that we even brought up even during our PTR stream, was Helltide specifically. One big topic.
So we're getting less.
Was Banful Hearts.
Banful Hearts.
If you guys remember back during the PTR stream, we talked about how Season 4, everyone had a plethora of Banful Hearts. I mean, it felt like everyone was always carrying about 100 to 150 at any given time, and you could deposit as many into your heart's desire and still always have that same amount. We wanted Banful Hearts to feel a little bit more special, and so during the PTR, we actually did take the number down in terms of how many you would be able to earn. We did hear everyone's feedback. People were like, that feels kind of crappy. So we most definitely readjusted the drop rate of Baneful Hearts to really kind of close that gap in between Season 4 and Season 5 PTR.
Oh, okay, so it's not going to be worse.
Make sure that was
like that much worse, I guess.
It feels better. Like you won't have 150 on you at all times, most likely, but you still have plenty now.
Yeah, because it was a good way to get like legendary drops
as well. So some of the changes that we have coming up for Baneful Hearts and the rates that will help with this is we're bumping up the drop rates off of chests within Helltide specifically. Players will also be able to get a guaranteed heart drop off of Helltide commanders now. And then one big thing is within world bosses, we actually have an image of
world bosses are going to be a lot harder. It's basically they take a lot less damage.
World bosses. Sometimes world bosses actually do spawn within a Helltide zone, and we thought it would be kind of cool that, hey, you killed the world boss there, and a Helltide happened to be present in that specific zone where the world boss is. Now you'll just get a guaranteed 3 within that world boss kill, which is kind of nice. So
that's super cool.
We're also bumping up the drop chance to like local events, mastery chests within Helltide, and of course Harbingers within it as well. And then one big change that we're doing within this as well is the Blood Maiden within World Tier 1 and 2 in Season 4 and even Season 5 PTR, you would have to deposit 3 hearts, just like World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. We're actually tweaking that down to just 2, so for World Tier 1 and 2. So there'll be one less like altar pedestal for you to deposit a heart to summon the Blood Maiden within World Tier 1 and 2, which should help out with,
It just makes your farming a little bit quicker in the early levels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like you're needing to put in that many for those earlier levels.
That much easier to chain a ton of Blood Maidens back to back to back.
Exactly, yeah. So next thing we did want to talk about is within Helltides as Tortured Gifts, another change for World Tier 1 and 2, there'll be less cinders required to open up
more legendaries early on, that's good.
World Tier 1 and 2, so it's dropping from 100 to 75 specifically. And then this is something we talked about in the last stream where it was like really difficult for players to actually kind of go through a Helltide and complete, a full-on Tree of Whispers progression line within Helltide. So now you'll actually be able to earn all 10 Grim Favors within a Helltide for sure when it's in one subzone, and actually deposit that within the Tree.
Cool, there's all good quality of life stuff. This makes things easier.
I know sometimes it would take sometimes 2 Helltides to actually do it, or you would have to leave the Helltide and go to a non-Helltide zone to kind of finish it off and stuff. And so we wanted to make sure that was more efficient, specifically within Helltides. And then this was a big thing.
Oh, Profane Mind Cages are coming back.
We
wow.
talked about
well, you can stack 3
PTR
of
stream
these?
that we were that Profane Mind Cages were
That's
a Season
cool.
4 mechanic. It was
well,
only
they were
within that.
technically.
Yeah. And so it was removed from Season 5. Heard the feedback, and people were like, "Wow, we really miss Mind Cages. Bring them back. What's going on?" So we did
Just
bring
more
them
XP
back,
faster.
Brought them back in a cooler form. So
I mean, so
now
far
you
there's
can
nothing
actually
that's really
stack up.
bad in this
So
update,
Profane Mind
which
Cages
is good.
back for Season 5.
But I want
you can actually stack
bigger
these now
changes,
up
which will
to,
come with the
3x
uniques
in Season
once
5.
they reveal
This
those.
is seasonal only, so this is only on the seasonal realm specifically.
Oh.
But now stacking up to 3x does actually.
So
make
now there
it,
is a point to
monster
playing
rewards
season
better.
for more
Significant
XP.
huge, yeah, so you'll end up, you could knock monster levels up, 30 levels if you wanted to, and you will benefit or maybe suffer.
Suffer quite a lot, yeah.
Because when you die, you lose
it
all
does
the
give players
cages.
the option now to use that, and so Profane Mind Cages are back and in a kind of a cooler form for Season 5, which is really cool, and we really appreciate the feedback we heard from players.
Hopefully the Shard of Varatha, hopefully that thing won't get nerfed, but let's see.
Next, overall, just general game updates that we do have. One big thing that we're doing is we are boosting legendary drop rates.
What, easier? Whoa, I did not expect this.
All
Legendary drop rates are getting boosted. I already felt like it was pretty easy, to be honest, but
it's higher, so you'll be able to see.
The more the better, I guess.
Like,
I'm not gonna complain about that, but at this point, people may think the game is too easy.
Enchanting, one big thing we heard is
removing Angel's Breath is a great thing.
Blocked a little bit with Angel's Breath.
And no longer cost Angel's Breath.
Remove Angel's Breath as a cost towards.
But then we have gold as a problem, so let's see if they address that.
We've actually now kind of just swapped.
I guess there's the Infernal Horde chest.
Legendary salvage. So for instance, armor, it would be coiling wards, weapons, baleful fragments, and then jewelry, abstruse sigils. That tongue twister there.
Abstruse sigils.
Abstruse sigils. But you now have the ability of being able to do enchantments.
Okay, so unless this was stuff that we've already covered, which is you can use potions while crowd control. That was on PTR.
Removing a little bit of that friction with the Angel's Breath requirement. And then this is something that we had talked about beforehand, which is just crowd control. Overall, within Season 5 is going to be a lot better. I know crowd control can be sometimes painful, or either knocked down, or
here knocked down
stuck,
and frozen for a million years, and crying, and then dying horribly.
And so CC duration has been essentially just pretty much reduced across the board to 1.5 seconds max. And then one cool feature is you can also spam potions now while you're CC'd. Really good for people in hardcore, or maybe it's it creates more desperate moments of I'm still dying no matter what. But you now have the ability of being able to spam potions specifically if you are CC'd, which is really nice. We were talking about charging
bloated corpse fiends when they all stun you and they do the poison AoE. Yeah.
Exactly.
As a keyboard slammer myself, thank you. For,
yes, exactly.
Thanks for this change.
Next update we have is world bosses. So funny enough, this actually fell into Season 5 PTR, but that we forgot to actually put it in Season 5 PTR notes. And we actually forgot to actually
So guys, yeah,
mention
you
it.
can't kill
We
the
got a lot
world
of
boss in
reports
the
of
1
people
second
going, "Hey, why are
anymore.
world bosses like tankier and harder to
Yeah,
kill?"
actually fight back
It's
now.
not
Yeah,
much
that's
longer,
what's
though.
going on.
So
You can
they
still get it
actually had
done,
a
maybe
feature
about
called
another
Resilience on there.
minute.
Essentially, resilience normalizes damage across like all world content. So it's like if you shared world content. So like if a bunch of people are all coming into a world boss, you should expect to find that the world bosses will be a little bit more tankier, a little bit longer in terms of the experience that you're having as you're fighting against them.
Yep.
And less, like, hey, I blinked and it's gone.
No, that's a challenge now. You have to one-shot it.
Exactly.
3, man,
So-
mine, they barely even spawn in. I don't know about you.
It was actually present in PTR, and we actually got a lot of people that were going like, "Hey, I think this is a bug," and it actually wasn't a bug. It was just something we forgot.
feature,
We forgot to actually mention in the patch notes, so that is our bad. But we do want to make sure that everyone's aware that world bosses now have a feature called Resilience, and that will end up helping out with those encounters specifically. Separately for bosses. Hit boss damage has been reduced pretty much across the board.
66%
And then,
reduced
one
hit
big
boss.
thing that we did want to call out is
I'm gonna
we
write
got
that
a
as
lot
note.
of
That's a
feedback
massive
within,
change.
Season 4 and of course the PTR for Season 5. We saw some people address the changes that we were having there. But hit bosses had this tendency within Season 4 to have like very sharp damage. Where it would scale up really hard and
so now have stacking debuffs.
Boss, and you could potentially just get one shot based off of like those.
That's good though. It was never fun to get one shot in any video game.
The extra
right?
ones coming in would just come, one shot you and laugh as they left and you died.
Yeah, so now there is a feature within Season 5 where those Shadow Pit boss like affixes will appear, and they'll actually leave kind of a stacking debuff onto players now. So and it can go up to 3 times, and then obviously when it gets to the max, you have a very good chance of getting like heavily
punished
for taking up to 3 debuffs.
So it's only 3
from that.
debuffs.
This is really to allow a little bit more flexibility for players, based off of the feedback we heard regarding a lot of the one-shots and things like that. You now have the ability of being able to take a couple of these debuffs and maybe not like completely get punished from that. It's less about like the perfection kind of involved, but more so being a little bit more forgiving in some of those opportunities. Now, if you are a person that just like face tanks things and goes in and immediately takes 3 debuffs, you're probably still gonna learn that that damage is still going to be very sharp with the 3 debuffs. So, but it is something to help out. In regards to that.
What is that, going up 22% each time?
Every time that you get hit with one of those shadow boss mechanics, you'll take the debuff, and it increases all of your damage taken. So the regular boss is going to hit you harder, and the shadow bosses are going to hit you harder too.
Exactly.
So you just don't want that to ramp up too much, because then everything is going to be more punishing.
Yeah,
exactly.
I appreciate
There's a few people
it.
already asking about those debuffs in chat. So
yeah, it just increases all your damage taken. So basically, you get some freebies of getting hit by them. You really don't want to, but then after that, you got to watch out, because then it's about as hard as Season 4 was.
Exactly. So, and then another big thing. So this was something that was actually not present in the PTR, but it's something that we've heard a lot of feedback about, and actually a ton of feedback about. And this is group play in pits. In Season 4, the way that it worked was if you were in the pit and you were the party leader, and you had 3 friends that joined along, you would essentially get through the pit. You would get all the masterworking materials. For yourself, 100% of them, and then everyone else around that joined you would only get about like 50%, and it felt pretty punishing for people to really kind of join up with friends and run through pits. And we heard a lot of feedback of like, hey, it'd be great if I'm just joining my friend, we can all just get 100% of the pit material rewards, and so that is being tweaked for Season 5 now.
Awesome!
Our party itself will end up receiving.
The party gets
100% of the materials that you end up receiving at the end of the pit. So we appreciate the feedback. Thank you guys for letting us know. And this is something that wasn't in PTR, but
the original design was to make it so solo and group play wasn't
next up, we have Endgame
super far
bosses.
away.
Okay. So this is something.
This is one of the best changes. I already made a vid on it.
I do want to highlight again because I think this is amazing and will save a whole lot of time.
So nice.
You can now resummon endgame bosses.
This is actually massive. Probably the best change. No joke. With Season 5 is this right here.
you can just resummon. The altar will reappear, as you can see in the footage.
You could just summon again. You don't have to leave the area, reset the world. It is so much better.
Fighting Duriel, which is really nice. No more exiting the dungeon, resetting the dungeon, running back, and then having to do it over again.
Well, I grew up playing Diablo 2, so we had to like leave the entire game and remake a game, type in gibberish.
For gear, you'll be hearing a lot about all this new gear from Adam here in a second. But there were some
show us the
changes as well
uniques.
to some of the endgame bosses.
But this is legitimately the best change.
Like for instance, the first one we're going to talk about is the Beast in Ice. The Beast in Ice, of course, required a sigil to actually summon. Or to actually create the dungeon to go in to fight the Beast in Ice. There's no longer a sigil that will be required. And also the Beast in Ice is now way close to the dungeon. It's going to be a short dungeon.
You don't have to walk miles for it. That's great.
Bosses, so you're not having to go through a lengthy dungeon.
Yep, a whole dungeon just to get to the boss.
Likewise, no more sigil dust will be required for summoning the Beast in Ice. And then, of course, we thought about internal players in this situation because some of them have actually crafted a bunch of sigils, and now since sigils are no longer required, you can still use those leftover sigils to immediately resummon the Beast in Ice without needing the mats that are still required for the Beast in Ice. So it's kind of a nice benefit to them. And then, of course, Varshan also got some updates. Varshan required a bunch of different body parts, and now
there's like 4 of them, right?
Just requires malignant hearts. And of course, what you thought about eternal players in this specific instance, eternal players can convert their old body parts to hearts by going to the alchemist. That's a magical alchemist. But if you ever need a spare heart, you just go to an alchemist. That's just how it works.
Swap it out.
Yeah, that's just how it works. But yeah, some changes coming to that. And then separately, endgame bosses. For endgame bosses.
This is good because rare items are useless in Diablo 4.
Dropping rare items anymore. They're actually just going to drop additional gold, and of course,
that is awesome change, man.
And uniques and mythic uniques from them. So, but now we just removed the rare item drop.
Rare items have been removed from the endgame. It's just kind of clutter, you know.
The drop chances that you could.
But that does mean less materials when you salvage.
Tables. And then on tormented bosses now drop 5 times as many boss mats as before.
Wow.
And of course, all tormented bosses
5 times is crazy.
A mythic unique. So we are boosting up the mythic unique drop. There's actually specifics on all this stuff in the patch notes that people can read afterwards. And we've also reduced the
because now that's actually worth doing it.
Cost for the tormented bosses. Before it was 2. And now it's dropping to 1, so it should help.
And Stygian Stones are a little bit easier to get now since they've buffed the drop rate towards the end of Season 4.
Endgame bosses that are available, which are their tormented versions. And then one big thing that is happening, and this is something that was kind of mentioned in the blog, but and people will see more specifics in the patch notes. Experience is changing in terms of like the XP bonus from killing higher level monsters. It's no longer capped in. I believe it's now. Well, it's
just no cap.
It's actually it's so capped, shall I say? It's capped at 30 levels. That's actually incorrect on the slide, but
okay.
It used to be 10 levels. It's now 30 levels.
Nice.
Is that going to make a huge difference, though?
Tiers. So
we'll see.
For example, if you are a level 50 character and you kill a level 80 monster in Season 4, you would only get
it's up to 60.
Level
up
60,
to level 60
experience.
credit, and
now you'll get up to that level 80.
But does that actually matter? We'll see.
It can help out a lot. If you are willing to go through more challenging content, bam, you get more XP for it. So which is really cool. And it's also really nice that because it plays really well into the stacking profane mind cages, which are now available within Helltide, because that can actually also increase monster level by 30 levels as well. So it's kind of a cool little add-on, you could say, from that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think that's it for general game updates. Yeah,
but oh my god,
that's the general game updates.
As I talked about a bunch.
Oh, I thought we were going to get the unique stuff.
You guys will see the patch notes afterwards.
Okay. Are they wrapping it up?
Yeah, really amazing to have all those changes. Chat was absolutely lighting up.
Okay, well,
cool. With regards to all the,
let me know, guys, what you think of the update. I'm going to go cut this for part 1. I don't know if uniques are going to be in part 2, but if there are, I'll show them for you guys.
And,
let me know what you guys think.